committee hearing to order. If someone would mind closing the door over there. Okay, should we please do a roll call? Please turn all your cell phones and other devices off.
Alderwoman Davis. Alderman McCorrow.
Present.
Alderwoman Howard. Present. Alderwoman Hubbard.
Present.
Alderwoman Murphy.
Here.
Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Muhammad.
Here.
Alderman Odenberg. Alderwoman Boyd.
Here.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Here.
Chairman Palmer.
Present.
8 present, you have quorum.
Thank you very much. We'll be excusing Alderman Oldenburg for necessary absence. Alderwoman Spencer will be late. She sent me a note. And I believe Alderwoman Davis also wants to be a little late. So we'll move on from there. We have the minutes from yesterday's meeting already due to our new efficient master clerk.
Yay.
A clerk. Having a clerk.
So we will move for approval of minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes for Tuesday, for Monday, Tuesday, May 14th, for the Ways and Means Committee.
All right, thank you very much.
Without here.
And we will move on to the board bill number 1. As we continue from yesterday, we will have the Department of Health step up to the hot seat on the end. Please sit down and state your name for the cameras.
Dr. Frederick Eccles, I'm the Director of Health for the City of St. Louis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Eccles. Please proceed.
Hi, Dr. Eccles.
Hi.
You got the floor. Just kind of go over your
Please
budget.
proceed.
Just kind of tell us about your budget.
So,
Okay, got it. Man, that's smart.
so for the FY20 budget that was submitted to the budget office reflects the true needs of the health department. As you look through the different categories, as you will notice, most of the account centers remain relatively stable. There were a few requests for positions which were granted by the budget office, but for the most part, the City of St. Louis Department of Health's budget remains pretty level. So we're essentially requesting level funding for this upcoming year, with the exception of the few positions that were requested. There are a couple of items that are out that I need to clarify. So one is one of the contractual agreements for the health safety net, which is a $5 million request, and this is this request is for the Medicaid match, and so this is the city's contribution to Medicaid match, which brings in roughly $27 million to the St. Louis region for Medicaid services for individuals in the St. Louis area.
Okay, anything further that you?
And the only additional item was that we requested was for account center to accept grant funds greater than $100,000. So as you all know, the City of St. Louis, roughly 50% of the health department's budget is through federal funds. And so in order for us to remain, to create sustainable programs, we are constantly seeking funding through the national organization as well as through the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services.
All right. We have Alderman Davis not here. Alderman Vaccaro is not present at the moment. Alderman Howard, do you have any questions of Dr. Eccles?
I do not at this time.
Okay. Alderwoman Hubbard, do you have any questions of Dr. Eccles?
Not regarding the budget, but this is my first time meeting you. It's a pleasure to meet you and have you here serving in our city. Can you give us just a little background on your history and how you got here?
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. Attended Clark Atlanta University for undergrad and was a medical student at Boston University School of Medicine. After completing my matriculation there, I served in the Navy as a medical officer, did a tour in Afghanistan, as well as served as the primary medical officer for Marine Aviation Logistics Squadron 16 out of Miramar, California. And after completing my time in the military, I served as the Director of Infectious Diseases for the state of Illinois, after which I served as the Director of Infectious Diseases for St. Louis County, which also includes the Vector and Animal Control program, and now I'm the Director of Health for the City of St. Louis.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Alderman McCarr, you're absent for
Yeah,
your
no,
turn.
I'm good. No,
You're good, all right, thank you very much. Alderman Murphy, any questions?
No questions, but welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Spencer is not here at the time. Alderman Mohammed, do you have any questions of Dr.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Director.
Thank you.
Under the contractual and other services, I see professional services, prevention, and early intervention. Can you explain exactly what those are?
Yes, so this is for our, so the city of St. Louis is responsible for HIV prevention for the St. Louis region. And so one of the things that we identified early on, actually while I was at the county, that there were only two agencies or two locations available in the St. Louis region that offered free comprehensive sexual health services for uninsured individuals who had no other payer source. And so Director Moore, when she was in her position, she identified some funding, roughly around $350,000, that would allow us to expand this. And so actually what we did was we revamped the contractual agreements, put out an RFP, and through this process we were able to expand that safety net to 11 locations across the city and the county. And all these agencies are, to ensure that we were providing quality services, we created a value-based reimbursement system to ensure that the providers that were enrolled in this project were indeed providing quality services to our clients. So again, as of July of 2018, there are 11 sites across the city and the county that are participating in this project, and we're also compiling metrics. And so through the reporting mechanisms that are in place, we're able to identify the number of individuals that are being served, whether or not they're being treated according to national guidelines, and if they're being linked to other services. One of the things that we've also identified through this project is individuals that seek these services are often eligible for some of the other programs that are offered, whether it's through the Behavioral Health Network or the Regional Health Commission or Integrated Health Network. And so we use this opportunity to link individuals who may be seeking sexual health services to other services so they can be linked to a primary care provider and be treated accordingly.
Absolutely. So animal care control is under your jurisdiction too?
Yes.
A quick question. So I see here it says Director of Health and Hospitals. So, I mean, two divisions to make one department, but we don't have any city-owned hospitals, right?
Correct.
No.
So what is the difference
So
between?
that's an old term
That's
that's
the
title
on the books. And
Right, I follow that. So this
We
is,
had two.
But we do have a significant number of representatives from the local area health systems on our Board of Health. And so we engage them on a bi-monthly basis to make sure they're informed about what's happening on the public health front in the city of St. Louis, as well as engage them so that we can provide them, so that we can leverage them as a resource for improving the workforce development for the city of St. Louis Department of Health, as well as some of our partners, whether it's FQHCs and other community-based organizations.
absolutely. So why do we have a Director of Health at $151,000 and we also have a Commissioner of Health at $136,000? Do you have a Commissioner of Health?
The commissioner has not been hired.
Is that necessary to have, or would that jurisdiction just fall directly under you as a director, since it's really only one department now with two separate divisions as we had in the past?
So if you look at the history of the health department, years ago, the health department was staffed with roughly 700 individuals. Over time, the infrastructure of the public health department has changed, and so DHS was pulled out, as well as EMS was also pulled out. And then a lot of clinical services that used to be offered by the health department were discontinued. And so, is there a need for a health commissioner? If the health department is properly funded and properly staffed, absolutely.
What would be the description of the Commissioner of Health?
So the Commissioner of Health is typically responsible for overseeing a lot of the day-to-day operations, as well as some of the strategic planning. So they will be heavily involved in the community health assessment development, as well as the strategic plan, which is completed every 5 years. So everything is on a cycle. And these cycles are really important because it allows us an opportunity to assess the health of the city of St. Louis, as well as determine what our goals and objectives should be for the upcoming cycle. So essentially, it's an evaluation of the health outcomes for the city of St. Louis.
So it's just not your department, but all throughout the budget book, I just see similar and counterpart positions in the same department that do pretty much the exact same work in some type of formality or similar work. And all of them are making, $80,000 or more. And when we talk about the budget, and we know that public safety is well over 50% of our general revenue budget, and we always talk about how we want to see money go to the Department of Health. I would rather see $136,000 go to professional services, prevention, and early intervention. Something that will actually help the community. Again, I see similar positions. I see a public health educator, a public information officer, contract compliance officer under the health commissioner, and these same positions are directly under your independent office as well. It just seems similar.
So this was changed, so in prior years, there wasn't a director, there was an acting director, and so all the centers were under the health commissioner. And so what we did this year was switch that back to the director of health account center. And so there may look like there's some redundancy, but there's actually, we just moved them to the appropriate account center.
Okay. Just one more question,
No,
Mr. Chairman.
the floor is yours, Alderman.
I only know what this word means, so if I say it incorrectly, please let me know. Epidemiologist.
Epidemiologist.
Yeah, what's that? That sounds interesting.
So the epidemiologists serve as the backbone for public health. One of the things that we aim to do is create an environment or agency that's driven by data. The data shows us where the health disparities are, where the gaps in our services are, and that informs our decision making when we're creating new initiatives and new programs. Not using the data means that we're operating blindly. And that would be a significant misuse of taxpayer dollars, and that's not what we're about. And so the epidemiologists, they collect the data, whether it's communicable disease information, environmental services as it relates to lead and air quality, and they compile this data and create multiple different types of reports for us, and we use that information to, again, to guide our development process for our initiatives and our programs. We also use this data to, when we're submitting applications for funding, whether it's to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or to the National Association for City and County Health Officials, or to the Department of Justice.
So your budget is just over $1 million. Do you think that's enough? Realistic?
It's not.
Never.
If he said that, he wouldn't be a director.
That's right, yeah.
I just
And one of the things, when I look at the health of the city of St. Louis, not just look at where we are, but look at the trajectory that has occurred over time, going all the way back to City One Hospital.
Wow.
There's a lot that has happened over the years that has led to the current health outcomes, whether it's STI rates, is opioid or substance abuse issues, mental health services, lack of a safety net for individuals. This has led to where we are today. And the current public health infrastructure is not sufficient. But what we're doing is through quality improvement tools and quality improvement efforts, we're increasing the workforce, improving our workforce development through evidence-based strategies, which allows us to leverage resources across the department and across the region to do our best, to do the best we can to address some of the disparities that we're seeing now.
One more question, I promise I'm done. Contractual and other services, energy and utility assistance.
So that's for Heat Up St. Louis. And so that's a project where we work with the Heat Up St. Louis as well as the Department of Human Services to provide utility assistance for those individuals who need it. And there's a streamlined process that's in place to ensure that the individuals that are seeking assistance to this program are properly vetted, to make sure the funds are properly utilized.
Thank you, Director. No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you very much. Alderwoman Davis, you were not present during your turn, so we'll let your seniority push you up.
I appreciate that.
No problem.
So, Dr. Eccles, first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
I appreciate the fact that you have done your homework. And I also wanted to ask you, in the particular position that Alderman Muhammad was asking about, that position, as you continue to look at how we are structured and you continue to move through this region and look at what your counterparts are proposing to do. And I say that because we know that BJH, BJC, SSM, and others have formed a collective to work on the health disparities in the city and region, mostly the city, but the region. And they put some key people in place to do those things. Could that position not be a position that supported those efforts, which allowed us to have more resources available, more readily available, first of all, and then also have the communication process that needs to be in place to get more done with more resources?
You're referring to the health commissioner position?
Yes, sir.
So that position, so the strategic, the health strategies and quality improvement component of that particular position is just a piece of the other responsibilities that an individual is responsible for. And so that position is still needed because there's still vision setting for the department that may not be directly tied to the health systems or even St. Louis County or any of the community-based organizations. So what I'm seeing now, there's a lot of internal operations that need to be improved. And so developing a workforce that's really, that's more competent and that can really compete with the New York Cities and the San Francisco and LA health departments is really what we need. And they need someone that can really facilitate that process internally. And the director can't do it alone. The director is, involved in a lot of the other larger initiatives that are set forth by the city, as well as some of the regional initiatives as well. And so it's really important for this individual to have someone that's dedicated to facilitate this process within the department. And that's one of the roles for the health commission.
Okay.
And it's also important. So as City of St. Louis has been recognized as a city where there's a lot of opportunity, that will allow us to be trailblazers, not only in public health, but in law enforcement and social justice. And so, but if our operations aren't right, we don't want to set ourselves up to fail. And so, and part of my strategy, what I'm doing now is just doing an assessment of all the programs in the department, identifying the needs, as well as working with our academic institutions, St. Louis University, Washington University, as well as UMSL, and Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville, to improve our offerings as relates to workforce development, so that when these opportunities are presented to us, we're able to say, yes, we can take it, we have the capacity to do this, we have staff that have expertise to actually run these programs efficiently, from the development from the development portion all the way to implementation. And so all the positions that are currently on our books are needed.
I'm just going to make one quick comment. You are the first one that has impressed me in explaining your budget for this particular department. And I've been on this budget committee probably about seven different times. And so I really do appreciate your conversation. And are you acting or were you appointed? Are you an acting director?
I'm appointed.
He's appointed.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Jesus.
He's the real
Okay.
deal.
Something we haven't had in a while.
Oh,
Yes.
hey,
Okay.
No, he's gonna be
Okay.
there.
Thank you, that's wonderful. So you have a lot of opportunity and feel free to call on us. And I'm very active in the health community.
Absolutely. So we've actually been approached by several federal organizations
Yeah.
that want to partner with not only the health department, but with law enforcement. And so another priority for me is really breaking down some of the silos as it relates to health. Because health impacts every
Everything.
organization,
Yeah.
every individual in the city. And so for us to operate in silos doesn't do us any justice and actually handicaps us in a lot of ways. And so I've been working with Judge Edwards as well as Commissioner Glass and other agencies to really start having those dialogues about how can we leverage resources across the City of St. Louis government to develop solutions that are sustainable and innovative. And so we're on the right road. It's going to take some time, but everyone is really engaged and everyone is really supportive. And I think the best is yet to come for health in the city of St. Louis.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Madam Vice. All right, Alderman Oldenburg is excused. Alderwoman Boyd.
Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
I glad to hear that you are trying to collaborate and partner with other departments, because the way our city is going, we need to look at that more so as than working solo. Because it's not gonna help us as a city, and I was glad to hear that you spoke with, Judge Jimmy Edwards, because I'm a real advocate on the animal abuse piece, and I've been talking to some of your staff in regards to that. And so I think they're kind of sending you out there with a rubber knife to address this issue, because you don't have the staff to do the job that needs to be done to address those issues. And so, thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. And so what I'm looking at, what I'm asking is, are you all looking at how to improve that department, or?
Absolutely. So quality improvement isn't just for the health department at large, it's for every single program in the health department. And so using things such as logic models, which allow us to see what the resources are, what actions we need to take to achieve the desired outcomes. And so that's something that's being implemented across the board for every program, including animal care and control. There's some opportunities for us to improve our efficiency, as well as improve some of the legislation that protects animals and governs the authority of the health department.
Okay. And I think that's it. I'm just glad that you just really excited, because you seem like you're excited about what you're doing. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. One thing that not only do we want to partner with other agencies across city government, but the alderpersons are our champions too. And so making sure you all have the information that you all need, so that when people approach you about health-related topics, you'll have the information to really speak soundly, efficiently about the disparities and the issues that we're facing in the city of St. Louis. And so one of my goals is also to meet with each and every one of you to talk about what's going on at the health department, and what trends we're seeing, as well as give you some of the historical information so you understand the context. In the health department, we often utilize the socio-ecological model, which allows us to look at the historical context and how it relates to the health outcomes and environmental factors that may impact some of the health outcomes that we're seeing now.
So question, on this whole measles piece, how do you all see to get that information out through our public and through the school system?
So we have really great working relationships with the school systems in the city of St. Louis. We use our public information officers to put out educational information and health alerts. So we've been doing that for the last month. And we've also been reaching out to other media outlets such as radio and television. And they've been really interested in the story as well. And so they've actually been airing a lot of the guidelines and recommendations that have come down from CDC that we're also supporting, promoting locally.
Thank you.
No further questions?
No, that was
All right,
it.
thank you very much. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard, it's your turn.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to ditto all the compliments. And then the one question that I was going to ask was about meeting with you, but you already answered that. You said you want to meet with us, so I look forward to meeting with you.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Eccles, it's been a pleasure, but Alderwoman Boyd took care of my measles question. But, and how many empty positions are there besides health commissioner currently that you need to fill? Do you have
Right now, let's see, there's 18.
18?
Wow.
And these are strategic positions, are these low level, or where are we at with what's,
All of the above.
okay.
Well, every position is strategic. Every one of the things, although we're a medium-sized agency, every position in the agency plays a critical role in making sure that we're able to move the needle towards health equity. And so, and that's why sharing information around quality improvement is something that's not just at the senior level, but it trickles down to the frontline staff as well, because they're the ones that are doing a lot of the work for us.
Okay, and we're doing a overall search for the health commissioner, and as far as your applications coming in, if anything?
To come. Right now, again, as I mentioned before, right now the ultimate goal is to do a comprehensive assessment of all of the programs and work with the mayor's office to actually go over the metrics for the department so that everyone understands the direction that the health department is going in, and everyone's on the same page. And it also provides individuals an opportunity to ask any questions around barriers or deficiencies that may have been noticed.
I believe Alderman Murphy had another question.
Yes, I did. I said, do we have any kind of like liaison or whatever between, like, say, the police department and the health department concerning mental issues? It seems like the core of so much of, people's trouble are mental issues, and not necessarily they become criminal after, a fashion. So do we have any kind of liaison where the police can notify someone, health department, or, to maybe help some of that in the very beginning?
Right, so there hasn't been a single person serving in that capacity, but one of the things that we're working on now is developing Criminal Justice Coordination Council. And so this council is a multidisciplinary council that's comprised of city courts, law enforcement, some of the community-based organizations, the health department, as well as fire and EMS, to do just that, to be a soundboard for some of the criminal justice issues that have come to light in the city of St. Louis. Another part of that is also to better gauge where the criminal justice system is in the city of St. Louis. We're having an independent contractor actually come in and do a comprehensive evaluation of the criminal justice system, and that information will be used to guide the development and strategic plan for this Criminal Justice Coordination Council, which will be the soundboard for making sure that we address social justice related issues for the city of St. Louis.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Alderman Howard?
I just would like to commend you for your attention to the details and the ailments of the city, and drilling down to the idea that, health affects how we interface with the world.
Absolutely.
Mental and physical health. And I think it's very important in our environment. So, and you kind of hold all of that, which is a huge job. So, and I'm sorry I haven't responded to your email and your invitation, but I will. This is a very busy time for us, and I know
Absolutely.
you're probably very, very busy setting your pace and getting your marching orders together. So, welcome, and I wish you the best, and I hope we can work together.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. No further questions? All right, Dr. Eccles, thank you very much. Very impressive. Very nice to meet you, and look forward to everything in the future with you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks so much for your time.
See, we're not bad.
You have a call?
Thank you
We're
very
actually
much.
about 15 minutes ahead of schedule.
There you go. All right.
Okay, we're going to resume Ways and Means today, and we have Donna Brooks Sanders from Communications. Thank you. Sorry we got finished a little early, so we didn't Dr. Eccles was very efficient. Knocked everything out for us. So go ahead and
Okay. Good morning.
good morning.
All right, since I know that there are a few new faces here, I just want to kind of give a little bit of an quick overview of the Communications Division. The Communications Division is home to the Emmy Award-winning local government access channel, commonly referred to as STL-TV. The division also provides regulatory oversight of the city's right-of-way for telecommunications users on behalf of the Board of Public Service. We also serve as a liaison for all cable-related concerns within city government. And this coming year, we'll serve as the lead agency for the deployment of small cells for 5G expansion in the city of St. Louis. I have a small staff of about 7 full-time employees in our programming section, headed by Mr. Holman here. And currently I have 1 inspector in our regulatory affairs, which we're hoping to replace a retired inspector before the end of the fiscal year. Along with myself and my secretary, that comes to 10 full-time employees and a number of per-performance employees and interns that help us out. The 2019 budget addressed a much-needed ADA compliance requirement for our local government access channel, closed captioning. We certainly thank this committee for seeing the value and the need to offer this as a service back to city residents. We successfully implemented the service just last month, and continue to work out the bugs. If you've watched the channel, you can see that it's not always the correct words, but
That happens on even all the major channels.
Exactly. So we're trying. But it is offered 24 hours a day on the channel and online, so that is being addressed. Of course, human capital is a lifeline of our service, and probably like most, we're understaffed and under budgeted. Closed captioning, again, is almost a full-time job in and of itself. It's not really designed to be a plug-and-play. You really do need someone who can oversee that. But currently, we're relying on a video production specialist that we have who is sort of our resident IT/editor/audio engineer/equipment researcher, consultant, and operator. And really, these slashes apply to just about everyone who works in the communications division. We are truly one of the busiest local government access operations probably in the Midwest. Our mandated coverage of all the BOA committee and board meetings, as well as ENA and preservation board meetings, held throughout the year, keep our crews running. Today is a good example because we have 4 crews that will be covering 4 different meetings that this committee or this board has just today, and I think we do the same thing tomorrow. And we also have some events back at the studio, productions at the studio as well. But looking at our production numbers to date, we've covered 194 Board of Aldermen meetings, committee meetings, and public hearings. We also manage the city's YouTube channel. We post all meetings within 72 hours or less after recording. We've never received an increase in revenues for the added mandates. In addition, we cover press events of other elected officials, and we work with various city departments to further keep residents informed. In all, we've covered 149 pressers and community events and produced 147 shows in our studio. All in all, was just under 500 productions to date. Unfunded mandates are difficult to manage successfully year after year without funding and adequate staff. Both my programming section and regulatory affairs sections are understaffed. The need for human capital is not a luxury, it's a necessity. My programming section needs a 5th full-time production employee, and on the regulatory side, I can use a full-time engineering manager. Just about regulatory quickly, the regulatory section has processed to date 294 right-of-way applications, resulting in a minimum of 588 inspections. 1 inspector now for the last 6 months. As of this month, the city is open for small cell deployment, which allows carriers essentially to densify their networks as they move from 4G to 5G. It's a new initiative for my division, and my regulatory affairs section consists just of me and 1, hopefully 2 inspectors. It is anticipated that as many as 1,000 small cells could be deployed in the coming year alone. We received 125 asset reservations on the first day we opened for business. While the city is trying to contract with a consultant to assist, they will only be handling about 60% of what needs to be done. However, we do have imposed state and federal shot clocks to meet and increase record keeping and accounting duties to oversee. The need for support staff is dire to help me with this upcoming workload. These items or concerns are not included in the budget because they would not fit within the appropriation. So,
Okay.
you want to
Anything to add?
see if they
All
have
right,
questions?
She summed it up pretty well.
Okay, Alderwoman Davis, you have any questions of Ms. Brooks Sanders?
First of all, thank you for what you all do, most especially when we are calling for those additional things that we're doing in the community that we'd like to have covered. There is probably never, ever, and it's a shame to have to say this, where we have the ability to cover your department with funding like it should be. But one of the things that I think that we need to do, most especially because we've just added another committee to our list, so that's even more meetings for you to cover.
Right.
Yeah.
We need to figure out how to get at least 1 more staff person there. So I'm going to be looking for it. Okay? Thank you.
All right. Alderman Vaccaro, any questions?
I do. So roughly how much additional funding do you believe you need?
So if we looked at the video production specialist position, it's about $36,000 as a base price for that position. So whatever that is with benefits. And then if we were able to get someone to work in the engineering side of it, I think it's a 18M position, so I'm not exactly sure what that base price is.
Roughly 100, 150?
Yeah.
Okay, and that skinny Kim that I keep asking for, I noticed that I look even fatter.
Skinny Kim.
Oh, the one that,
Come on the
yeah.
budget. I don't know.
I don't know what's going on because I
They
noticed.
sell it at Carnival Supply.
I know, well, when I go to the house of, whatever, it makes me look taller and thinner, and I thought maybe you guys should invest.
They said a camera has 10 pounds, so they must have like 8 cameras.
Well, I'm thinking that,
Yeah.
anyway, no, thank you guys, and you're right, we need to be finding that, because all we keep doing is saying, we want this, we want that, we want closed caption, we want, all this, but we don't pay for it. So, yeah, you're right, we'll,
Just like Auditor Inspector. You want everything, but you don't want to pay for it.
yes, but that was my only thing, and I will help look for it, we'll find it.
Okay. All right, Alderwoman Howard.
I have a question, and I don't know, you were talking about the licensing, and I'm not quite sure I understand that process. And I was just wondering, we have this technology person, Dr. Gaskin, and I don't know if that has anything to do with his
Yeah, so.
Whack, or,
So
maybe there could be some interface overlap there, I don't know.
So we've been working with him, in fact,
Okay.
for the expansion of 5G, and it's really under his leadership that we've gotten to this point, but then there comes a point in time where he sort of hands that off. So all the things that were necessary with, we had to have some ordinances that were written to
Right.
support that, and then even our relationship with a contractor. I've been working hand in hand with him through this whole process. This has probably been about a 3-year process. He's been here for about a year, but he's allowed us to be able to at least move the needle to get to the point where we are now open for business, if you will. And so that application process is something that we do have online, but there are other parts of the
Process, I guess.
yeah, the small cell deployment that requires the city to do certain things. So we have to, for example, essentially what they'll do is they'll be putting these antennas that will sit on top of our light poles that will bring the signal for 5G closer to where we live. We've got a lot of, right now we're at 4G, they're trying to move the needle up so that all of our wireless devices work no matter where we are, but it brings it closer to us. It's going to be on light poles. They're about 100 feet apart, so there's going to be quite a few of them that need to go into the city right away. And with that, the city has make-ready costs associated with getting those poles, getting the backhaul, all of that together. And so we're working with the company because we've got about 55,000 light poles in the city. We don't have a way to manage reservations for that. So if you wanted a pole and she wanted a pole and you wanted a pole on the same block and it was the exact same one, we don't have the means to manage that internally. So we're working with a company that helps us to do that so that we can manage the city's inventory. But there are still things that the city has to do to get that pole ready for it to be able to function.
So I guess my question is, what role is it that your department plays? It seems like that this puts a lot of extra responsibility, but I'm not sure what role that.
I think the role that we played is to get us, we've been working with him to get us to this point, but moving forward, we take responsibility for those applications. If we're working with the consulting company, then I'm providing oversight of making sure that they're meeting those certain mandates.
And then I guess you have to coordinate with streets. Yeah, it's kind of hard to hear.
Yeah, and it's being picked up on the microphones too. Yeah, that's all right.
So there are.
I expect it's difficult because you have to coordinate with our traffic or our streets.
Exactly.
The light pole lady.
Absolutely.
Deanna Baker.
Yeah, Deanna, and Ed Streets and Water and even parks are all involved in that because of the things that they have to do in the right of way. So, even though it's designed to be wireless, you still have to connect some things, and so there's some backhaul development that has to.
So I guess the question is, you obviously may not have enough staffing for this? Is that what you're asking for, the extra staffing?
So that's the
One
other
of
side
things?
for the engineering manager position that I was suggesting, because it has the expertise to understand some
All
of the
of that.
schematics of things and making sure that everything is in compliance. I think the city needs that as well, and that is a responsibility that falls on, the division now, to coordinate that with all of the other offices and manage all of that information. And we're doing all of the billing and responsibility for that too.
And what is that position called?
It's an engineering manager 2 position. I looked at the qualifications for that position, and that's, I
Do we
think,
have it on your list of personnel, or?
no, I don't have that position at all.
It doesn't
So
exist.
it would be,
It doesn't
it
exist.
would be a
Requesting
new-
it.
Okay.
it would be a
Yeah,
new
okay.
position if it were funded.
Okay.
I think that would help us tremendously.
And what would the salary be?
It's an 18M on that manager position, so I'm not exactly sure.
That's 18 million a year.
There you go.
On the personnel, you want that one? Okay, yeah, me too, honestly, but yeah, it's
It's
an
not
18M,
much.
so I think it's
It's
about
not much.
Maybe
55,
40
about 55.
plus benefits.
55.
I think it's around 50.
And then benefits, so
So
probably
we
talking
still,
seven.
that's
Yeah.
what,
No, no,
150?
probably have another
Talking
30.
So I think you did it with benefits.
Any other questions?
We were looking at that.
No, but you're asking to add that. There it
I
is
would be asking to add that if
Two
possible.
things, video.
That
The
one
video.
and one for video.
Right,
all right.
okay.
Okay, and you have allocation for 4 specialists. You're asking for an additional one there.
Right. The amount of time that we spend in our per performance budget is equivalent to like 1.5, I think, people. And I think we could lessen that if we used to have 5 people.
Okay.
And then that was taken out, so.
Okay. And then the production manager, are you asking for another one there also?
No, this is an engineering,
This
so
is
this
the
is on
engineering.
regulatory.
Okay.
This is the production manager here. We're not getting rid of this.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know if you were asking for an additional
No.
person.
No.
He does a
I know.
fantastic job.
Thank you. Thought you was getting ready to get rid of it.
No, never, never.
No, not yet.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I think that flooded.
Thank you, Alderman Howard. Alderman Hubbard, you're up.
I have a quick question. So, over time, has your budget increased at all? Because I remember a time when we didn't, we can thank the former Alderman of the 21st Ward for mandating that we record all these committee hearings because of the time that we didn't. So, over that time, has your budget increased at all?
Never.
Okay.
It
Did you
had-
get
I
any
will-
additional staff?
I will say this, it was implementation where we said, let's take a look at the first year, and then the next year we would increase our budget. And we're going on,
If
I
comment,
guess,
it didn't-
5-year,
5
fifth
year
year,
increase,
and
we're
it
still
hasn't
looking at
happened.
the first year.
And to give a good example, so we had to reduce our staff, we basically installed cameras into the leisure room, 4 cameras in there and 2 cameras in here, so that we could easily cover these meetings. And so, like today, we get a meeting that's thrown into a room that we have no cameras in. So now I have to bring in additional staff to do that meeting. So it's like just those types of things that kind of hurt us, and we need to all be on the same page. I think that's what would help us tremendously. So I know, well, the former Alderman Terry Kennedy's looking at me, so. But as I mentioned to Tom Shepard, I would really appreciate it if we could make sure that we kind of manage where we place meetings and when we place meetings, because we have crews, but sometimes meetings overlap. And so I can't pull someone from one meeting to go start another meeting, so I additionally, have to add, 2 or 3 people just to make sure a day is covered. So,
Connect the dots.
yes,
All right,
yes.
No further
all right, thank you, Alderman Hubbard. Alderman Murphy.
Yeah, I said, sometimes our meetings are at the same time.
Exactly.
And you're on all the committees. So just a bottom line, what monetary increase are you looking for? For us to put in? Do you have a number?
I'm thinking
Okay.
with the 2 positions and benefits,
Right.
it's probably between 100 to 150,000
Okay.
would cover that at least, but no less than that.
Okay.
I will say this, part of, when I talked about the slashes, my secretary is also my accounts payable, my accounts receivable. She's also my office manager. And, and so there's a lot of billing that we anticipate. You can see in the budget where it talks about the technology deployment. We've got to deal with all of the billing, monitoring all of that. We've also got to manage all of the make-ready compliance. So we have to be able to go back and true up whatever the city has actually done to help these small cell carriers to deploy whatever those costs are. So we've got to coordinate between our office, I've got to coordinate what expenses and personnel that the streets department has done, the water division has done, and maybe even parks. And, you know, right now I have to rely on this / person, you know, to do that, because I don't have an accountant or anyone of that caliber. So, you know, if in my ideal world, I'd have that position in
Sure.
place too, because we're
Okay.
talking about you know, $750,000 that we're anticipating for the first year that needs to be billed, and all of these other variables that have to be, somebody has to be responsible, and right now it's on me, and I'm not an accountant. But, you know, it makes it more difficult if we don't have those bodies, but, you know, to do that.
So don't lose that / person.
Right.
And the 150,000 is a minimum.
I think so.
A minimum. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Alderman Mohammed. I'm saying Alderwoman a lot more than Alderman these days.
So Pat, you're asking us, so
I
how come we
have,
don't worry about it?
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Right,
I know
thank
y'all
you.
guys need more money.
That's right.
That's because he always looks sharp on TV. All right, Alderman Spencer is absent, and Alderman Oldenburg is absent. Alderwoman Wright.
I think, and I have to redirect my brain, because what you all are doing is pretty much like when people have events and people only see the pretty glitzy part. They don't see the labor that you all have to put into it to get to that end result. And so, under the pressure that you all are constantly under, I think your staff is very professional, and they're very cordial to us no matter what. And so you all are challenged on a regular basis, and I think I'm with the other Alder people, we need to try to find dollars to help you all do the job, because the menu at the back, we don't see that part that what you all have to do. And that's the, like you said, the licenses, the counting part and all of that. That makes the big picture look great, but we have to assist you to get to the big picture. So I'm in support of us trying to find some dollars to kind of help, you know, get you all where you need to be.
Awesome, thank you.
All right. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
I agree. Yeah, and I myself follow the meetings prior to even coming down to the board, so I think it's a great thing, the transparency that shows with us recording the meetings and streaming the meetings, and I agree with everyone else, we need to find you out some more money.
All right, thank you. May I suggest if you're talking about an engineer too, if there's a specific salary base for an 18M, whatever there is, or if there's positions you're wanting, maybe get that and distribute it to the members of the committee, so we know specifically what that salary is for that position. If there's specific positions that require a certain salary, so we know when you're guessing between 150 and one, if this engineer actually requires $100,000 for his position, we would need to know that.
Sure.
So if we can get a line item detail on what you're looking for and distribute it to the members of the committee.
Okay.
Other than that, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And again, we're outside of schedule.
I'm telling you,
We'll take a sharp break.
there you go.
All right. We're going to resume the Ways and Means hearing today.
Okay.
We have with us the people from the Parks Department. I see Greg, Kim, and I feel like Miss Lois in romper room. All right, come on in, and Director Hayes, please start your presentation when you feel comfortable.
Sure. Appreciate it, Chairman Ballmer, Alderman Ballmer, fellow aldermen and alderwomen. I'll be brief. In the past, I always say I don't want to dominate the conversation, but what I'd like to do, we have a very invaluable staff, and I'd like to real quickly, if I could, introduce them so there's a frame of reference for the room. So, go ahead and, Jim, not you, Jim. No.
Kathy Sullivan, I'm an executive assistant to Greg.
Okay.
Mary Lou Green, Brightside.
Kim Hagley, Park Commissioner.
Bill Bixon, new program manager with Recreation.
Oh.
Alan Jankowski, Commissioner of Forestry.
Vicki Wakeland, executive assistant to Alan.
All right.
Okay, anybody else? I didn't even see you there, Sharita. And one more to introduce herself.
Evelyn Rice, Commissioner of Recreation.
Okay.
I don't see Alicia Stellhorn here, she may arrive, but I'm gonna go ahead and get started, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Rick.
Okay, what I want to do is give you an overview of our department. This is commentary, but my first comment will be that although the word unscathed is maybe not appropriate, we are pleased with our budget, and we thank the Budget Division and other folks in the Mayor's Office, Board of Aldermen, for the budget we have, but I'm sure there'll be questions and we'll be happy to answer them. So, let's just go right down the line. Starting with Parks, about a $9.3 million budget, pretty much static as it has been in the past. No real increase. One thing you may have noted, and I know there's a lot of details I don't have the same documents you do, but two things to note about Parks. There's $50,000 you may see that was transferred to Parks. That was in addition to Parks budget, a subtraction from Recreation. We learned that we don't need recreation staff handling pool chemicals and all those types of things with pool maintenance. So when you see 50,000 going to Parks, it's taken away from Rec, just a wash. My other comment about Parks, this is the second year we're outsourcing some grass cutting. As you may or may not know, we picked a park. I look at the city geographically as north, south, east, and west, but we did pick North Riverfront Park, about 300 acres for a contractor to cut. And the other park is south, if you will, St. Marcus Park. It's an old cemetery, extremely tedious for our crews with all the headstones. Still a place of reverence and respect. So the contractor's been doing a good job there. The reason why we contracted out, Kim, I'm gonna put a few people on the spot. Do you know the ballpark value of that contract as of now? 100,000? 146,000 of contractual services. That's because we have an extremely difficult time getting fully staffed with hiring seasonal folks. Could be drug tests, failed drug tests, don't show up, no driver's license, and then police record checks. And also a fourth thing, this is the unprecedented lowest unemployment rate that I know of in the last 10 years. So unemployment, they may not want to do this manual labor. So, if I could just carry on. So that's it on Parks. Recreation, we are pleased to say we have 1125 funds now due to Prop P. That's about $1 million. The salaries of recreation's budget's usually around 2 million, 1.6 million general revenue, another 300,000 from CDA funding for summer programs. So, with recreation, we now have 1125 funds in addition. The funds for programming, which is the tune of about $500,000, is in the director's office, in my office, if you will. The staff of a new program manager too, Mr. Bill Bixon, who you met earlier, he's doing an outstanding job. He has 10 rec leaders with him, and he reports directly to Evelyn Rice, and that's about another 480,000 roughly. So talking about $1 million between programming and salaries. We completed this is very significant because I'd like all the folks in the room to get the word out. We completed a very significant request for proposal process. We have 17 providers, we've never had any, 17 providers going in our rec centers, providing anything from dance to arts to sports activities. They hit the ground running in June. There's 3 of them that really prefer to start in August because they really gear up. But we're hitting them all on the ground running in June and July. We want you to tell every kid in the city, go to your rec center that's closest to you, sign up on Rec Desk under Bill and Evelyn, and get in these free programs with professional providers. It's just an outstanding thing we've never had, and we're very proud of that. So that's about $1 million. Let's move on to Forestry. Forestry, you're going to see a significant reduction in their budget of the tune of about $767,000. But remember, that is simply funds that have been transferred to streets with the total, Alan, is it 21 or 23 employees that went from Forestry? 22. Let's split the difference. 22 employees were transferred from Forestry to streets. The rationale there is when a citizen calls to say I have debris that's uncontained, not in a dumpster, one of the 3 types of dumpsters, What do? There was extreme frustration for years. Well, let's ask you 20 questions. No. I didn't like the idea at first, but I acquiesce, and I do think it's an excellent idea to put all uncontained trash under one division. So now, that's about that amount of money transferred to streets. They've been handling it for a handful of months now, and hopefully the goal is for debris complaints to go down. So those employees are at streets. And we do have in this budget, fortunately, going back to parks, having a very difficult time hiring folks. Forestry, we typically hire around 80, 85. Our goal is 120 this year, just to get them hired due to attrition, people falling out. So you're gonna see $350,000 in contractual services that came to us. We can use those funds to supplement what we can't hire from in the city, so to speak. Remember, if you wanna apply for forestry or parks seasonally, you can live in Cahokia, you can live in Arnold, you can live in Belleville. We need people, and we've had some great job fairs. We've gotta stay staffed to cut these vacant properties. Finally, the director's office, I can make one comment there. We're static there, except for this year. We had Vanessa Carter, an accountant who retired after 40 years. I pretty much begged the budget division to hire a second accountant. So July 1, we're getting another accountant one to supplement the young man who we just hired. It was pretty insane to think one individual handled all the accounting for like 6 divisions of 600, on nearly 560 employees. So we have 2 to replace 1. She was off the charts. I'm sure everybody in the room already knows who Vanessa is. Playtime Rec, it's about $1 million budget, rolls over every year. It's not general fund. That's Alicia Stellhorn. Basically, it's funded through 8-cent sales tax and the BJC lease. So I had a note here just to remind myself. The 8-cent sales tax pays for her full-time staff, and BJC monies pay for the part-time staff to do our summer programs. I would like to thank Alicia publicly. Fortunately for Alicia, unfortunately for the city of St. Louis, Alicia's last day is May 24th, next Friday. She has accepted a job outside of city service. We wish her well. We feel very poised to continue on. She has everything set up right now to do the Playtime Rec programs, which is about between 85 and 90, and she has upwards of 900 folks signed up already.
Wow.
We're in good hands, but we will have to do another RFP process in the fall, September, October. All those contracts are expiring. We have some ideas in mind to maybe consolidate, and I'll be talking to some folks about that to make sure we have the most well-oiled machine moving forward. She's been here 12 years, and her work has been exemplary. So we're gonna need your assistance too to keep these kids coming. Finally, 2 last items. Soulard Market, as you know, for years, we've been in the black. Before Fort Parks took it over, if I don't mind saying so myself, we used to be in the red. We've been in the black for years. Kathy Sullivan does a tremendous job as our liaison, and she's only part-time, 3 days a week. That saves us money, but we're well equipped with Kathy to handle everything at Soulard Market. So we're about $235,000 budget, and we've been that way forever. Lastly, Brightside St. Louis, Mary Lou is here. Her program does all the beautification and graffiti removal efforts in the city. She's funded to about the tune of about $250,000, $335,000. You got a little bump up from CDA funds. We have some of her folks, just a couple, in the director's office. We're very lean in the director's office, I contend. But the bulk of her funds come from CDA, Community Development Agency. So, I hope I didn't take too much time being verbose. That is my summary, and we're happy to answer any questions amongst our team.
All right.
No questions, I'm fine.
Alderman Davis has no questions. We'll go to Alderman Vaccaro. She has another meeting she has to go to, so.
Okay,
Martha, I think she's coming back.
Hey, Alicia, I want to acknowledge you publicly on your tenure with the city. You will be missed. You'll just be very difficult to replace, but we will replace you. Thanks. We have to, okay?
Yeah.
So Alicia's here for any Playtime Rec.
Okay. Alderman Vaccaro.
Paul, Greg, just because it comes up every year,
Sure.
especially on the north side wards, grass cutting, how many cuttings are we allowing in this budget?
Sure. That's a great question, Alderman. So we are funded at the same cost, or the same funding at 1.2 million to hire our folks.
Right.
With the 350,000 we're afforded, we're pretty confident we may be able to do 4 rotations on lots, which we haven't done in about probably 25 years. And we think we can do upwards of, Alan, what do you think with those additional contractual funds? 7 to 8 vacant lot rotations ideally?
Yeah, 7 would be.
Okay, so we've always done like 6 and 2 or 2.5. It's completely unacceptable to cut the vacant buildings in this city once every 3 months.
No, I
Picture
know.
cutting your grass every 3 months.
Right.
So ideally, we'd like to say we'd be 7 and 4, 7 and 3, and 3 and a third, or 3.75, if you will.
7 and 4.
But we've never had these contractual funds before to this level.
And then the other, and again, it doesn't always affect my ward, but one of the things that comes up every year is, do you have the new equipment that we were promised last year that we're gonna definitely fund? Is it there now? I mean, we're gonna see new tractors.
We do, thanks.
Okay.
The question is about equipment. Well, I'd say Parks and Forestry has been at the low end of the priority poll for many years, but I am happy to say, due to the teamwork and help of many people, including some in this room, or several in this room, we have 2 new ag tractors in forestry. We have 34 ag tractors in forestry cutting the lots. We just replaced a third of them with brand new. Some aren't in yet. So the answer to your question, Joe, is yes. Parks, Kim, you have upwards of 20 new pieces of equipment, right? 16 to 20?
At least.
Yes, and we are continuing to do what we haven't done for years, and that is to get new equipment in our Parks and Forestry division. So this is the first time I've really ever been able to say that with confidence. So to answer your question, yes, we pulled the trigger on that thanks to a lot of help, and that we are running them now, and thank God we have them out on the street as compared to last summer.
Okay, and as a comment, Alan and Kim especially, I'm surprised they haven't put me on call blocker yet.
I have.
You know what?
I know,
We have.
Let me just say this.
but they really do it, you know, they do a good job.
I appreciate your comments about them, and let me just say this, like you, we're in the realm of public service, and that sounds like a bunch of garbage that I'm saying, but I'm very sincere. Our job is to keep citizens and property owners off of you. So if you send them to us, we make personal phone calls to anybody you send, and that's our job. You're an elected official, but we'll take the heat and answer our service calls.
Well, I got, you know, the stupidest story was, and I didn't, nobody called me, but Kim caught it, those things they call shamo pots, those round things.
Aggregate planters?
Yeah,
Yes.
they actually stacked them in steps, 1, then 2, then 3, at the comfort station at Tilly's Park, and they're riding their bikes on the roof. Now, I don't know how I didn't know, but Kim sent me a picture going, did you guys, well, she knew we didn't, but she said, did you guys put them that way? I'm like, so they went over and got them all out. Now, I don't know how they managed to make steps out of them, but.
I must say, I
They
did not
caught
see that.
Oh, I'll show you a picture.
I'd like to see it.
It
Sure.
was interesting. Kim caught it. We didn't, and I actually hang out at that park and I didn't see it. But anyway, they're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate it,
Alderman.
Alderman.
Alderman Howard, you're next.
My only question is, you started some of the mowing and you're ahead of schedule. Now, does that mean you mentioned we're gonna get more service?
We feel we will, yes.
Okay.
We feel we will do a little, I don't think, well, if we can get up to 120 people we hire on our own, oh, that's interesting, yeah. Alan, I'll throw it to you, I don't want to talk for you. With the current staffing, we're already at 80 people, if we can hang there, that's very difficult, plus contractual. We have a contractor doing 7 wards, by the way. We gave them 7 of the 28. And we did them kind of midtown south because that's where you hop around a lot. We're keeping there's no rhyme or reason to how it best to do it. We just made that operational decision. Go
So
ahead.
do we know what wards you have the contractors?
We do. We send it to City Hall every week. We'll send it
Our
to you.
contract was cut in Gateway Cemetery, so we kind of concentrated around those wards down south. So that's why the
Gateway
contract.
Cemetery.
On Gravois?
30 acres at Forestry has to
Oh,
cut
the
on
old St.
Gravois.
Marcus?
No, further south.
It's Gatewood Gardens.
Yeah.
It's another cemetery.
It's got the stone wall.
Oh, I thought
Between
that-
Loughborough and Hampton.
Yep.
Okay.
It's got
I thought that
stone
was
wall.
occupied. No?
No, we've been cutting it for
Yeah,
20 years.
yeah. It is. And they come to a
And they're not saying anything.
Alderwoman, that, I have been begging for that to get off our plate. LRA owns it, we've been cutting it, and we put the contractor in there, and it just frees up like 8 employees to go do vacant buildings. So we should increase our rotation, getting upwards of 3.
Will we get a revised schedule?
We send them every week. We send them to the Board of Aldermen, the NSOs, the mayor's office, everybody. That's kind of unheard of for somebody to send their
I don't know if
operational
I'm
stuff
getting
every
it,
week,
I'll
but we've been
check.
doing it.
I've got one.
I've got this here.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we send it to you every Monday, or every Tuesday.
It's out by Tuesday by noon.
Hopefully, we're not indicting ourselves by always doing that, but we do.
We get it at the email, but that was on our master schedule, I thought.
Well, can I see a show of hands who does
All
get
right.
that? Okay, great. Does get the rotation schedules? Well, then, I don't, who's it sent to at the Board of Aldermen?
Might be me.
I sent the link out initially, but I'll
Do you have
send,
yeah, let's send,
I'll send it to individuals.
can we send it to Sharita or everybody? Okay,
Yeah, I'll
sorry.
just send it to everybody.
All right.
I thought, we've been doing it for like 5 years.
Yeah.
So
Any
I'm
further questions,
sorry.
Alderman Howard?
Thank you.
No.
Okay,
I got
thank you very
it.
much.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Okay.
Alderwoman Hubbard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to go on record and commend your crew at DeSoto Park and Loretta Hall Park. They do an excellent job of keeping the grass cut at those parks. And at one
Kind of
time
you to
there was, I think one of the guys is retired too. He's been there a long time, but he definitely goes above and beyond. I walk that track a lot at the Iron Mom Fitness Trail, and I see them out there going above and beyond, doing their job.
Thank you.
And St. Louis Place Park, there was some problems at one time with the height of the grass, but I think that has been rectified as well.
Good.
So I just want to salute them and tell you that personally. But another question I have, so how many seasonal vacancies do you all have right now?
In forestry, we're shooting for the dream goal of 120. We're at 80, which is what we typically are, 80, 85. So we're kind of normally staffed now. On parks, with the contractor taking over the 2 parks, that freed up 16 people we said we really don't need to hire. So that number is 70. Kim, as of today, how many of 70 utility workers do you have working?
We have 68, but we're gonna keep going. We're probably gonna go to 75 just because of the turnover, so that we don't fall below that 70.
Yeah. We have no problems in parks, Alderwoman, of going up to 80. We will not go deficit with our budget because we always have so much attrition. People fall out. But we did 9 job fairs on April 6th at all the rec centers, thanks to Todd Walterman's help. And we have got to get the word out to get these.
Okay, and what's the starting pay for those positions?
$13.31 an hour.
Okay, because people tell me about jobs all the time, and that's definitely a direction that I know some people would fit in.
Sure, and we're pushing overtime now. I mean, when I retire, if I can make $20 an hour with a weed eater, I may go do that. And that's pretty good money when you think about it for a young kid. And we're going to the public schools now because they changed the job announcement. And we can hire 16-year-olds per the approval of personnel. So, I mean, we're doing, and a notation about St. Louis Place Park. You may know, if you don't, you should. Kaboom is coming in there, and they're building a brand-new playground. We wanted to pick somewhere in that area, especially close to NGA. So that's gonna be a playground put in the ground in one day with community.
heard about
I hope
that.
you're there for when's the groundbreaking?
Definitely email me the invite. I'll be
It's
there.
gonna be the fall, but I'll keep sending it.
Yeah, we're very proud of that, Kaboom.
Alderwoman Spencer can speak to
We
it.
did one in Gravway Park 2 years ago, and it was a lot of fun.
Okay, great.
So thanks for your comments and your patience.
No more questions? All right. Alderwoman Murphy.
No questions. I said everything down in my neck of the woods is really good. I said, the parks are good and everything. They started the pickleball stuff, so everyone's excited about that. And I hope we get those extra workers to, because my biggest complaints are the cutting of the vacant lots and the abandoned buildings.
And the rain. keeps it coming.
Right, and I grew weary of using rain as an excuse years ago. It's going to rain, but
Yeah.
sometimes when the sun hits it and the rain stopped after 7 days, people forget that it rained for 7 days. But when I drive by
Yeah.
Carondelet, I do look like this
I know,
sometimes because you have some
sometimes
low
that's all right.
areas.
Yeah, yeah.
But
We
no,
do have
we're,
a lot of swampy.
we want to hear when we're not doing our job, so let us know.
Thank you.
You will notice in the parks, there are areas that aren't cut.
Right.
You'll see everything around it cut, but if the area is not cut, it's because it's marshy, and if we
It's
go
a
in there,
swamp, yeah.
it's just gonna tear it up.
And most
So-
everybody who lives around there is aware of that,
Okay.
so I don't usually get too many complaints about that. Yeah.
All right,
Thank you, Alderwoman.
all right. And Alderwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for being late. I was at a separate hearing for.
We had your
personal matter.
excuses, fine.
Yeah.
Wow, there is a mess.
No, I want to commend the parks. I mean, our city parks are some of the best in the nation, and we do a really great job. And the staff was always very responsive to emails and inquiries, so I'm really, really grateful for that. We talked last year about some of the need for capital improvements, mowers and things like that. Even though you're moving in the right direction by replacing them, what I don't see in here, maybe I'm just missing it, is the overall need for the Parks Department. So instead of sort of being reactionary when we need, when things break down and, we're unable to get our parks mowed, being proactive in replacing our mowers. Do we have a schedule on what needs to be done so that we're investing money on the front end, so that we're not kind of left behind the ball on the back end?
It's a great question, Alderwoman. The last month, I've met with Todd, our commissioners, Kim and Alan, Chris Amos, and we're doing a fleet audit now. We've always put in our requests for capital. Doesn't mean they rise to the level on the capital replacement list as some other things. But we're doing a fleet audit now to know exactly what we need in addition to what we just got, to answer your question. So before it was always, you're not getting it. Now it's, we want to take care of you after the summer we had last year.
Yes.
So we're having those meetings. We just had 2 last week, and we're matching up employees with equipment to augment what we just got. So I don't think it's over by any stretch.
It would be really helpful to the Board of Aldermen and the budget process, especially those of us on this committee, to understand what the capital needs are. I know last year when parks weren't getting mowed and we were describing that we didn't have, that our mowers were broken down. As the aldermen, we got a lot of heat, rightfully so, for not providing the Parks Department with the funds to replace their fleet. And so for us, we need to understand what your capital needs are so that we can better understand, where we need to shift resources so that our constituents and our parks are served to the best of the ability that our city has.
Sure, and we may be guilty because before last year, we probably had 2 years in a row where we did not put capital on our budget requests because we knew it was futile. We knew we weren't gonna get any.
Sure.
But that has changed. I think everybody got the breadth of what we dealt with last summer, and we don't wanna do that again, cause it was living hell for us to
I
go
bet
to
it
bed at
was.
night,
Yeah.
to be honest with you.
Yeah. I only got 1/28 of the complaints from the city.
Well, you need-
Sure, but,
Appreciate it.
and I remember you coming to me directly last year in the mayor's office. I appreciated you.
To your
So
question,
we're
you're
here
not
to try to
needed there.
get you what you need. We just need to fully
Could you
understand
make
where
that-
your needs aren't being met.
Sure, Kim, with you.
Jack.
And Kim and
Make
Alan,
one
I
and
note
come
that
back.
as well.
Right, okay. Karen, any further questions? Okay, thank you very much. Alderman Mohammed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hey, Director, it's a pleasure to see you.
You too.
And I commend you, Kim, Alan, and Evelyn for the work you're doing. I know I'm your favorite alderman, it's okay, you don't have to
I
say
love all
that.
28.
Wrong answer.
Good answer.
Just one question, I would like, in the Division of Forestry,
Yes.
I think there should be a subdivision specifically for my ward. I would love, I'm kidding.
Well, I
You know,
think that's probably
Alan's
a
very attentive.
universal wish.
Yeah.
Alan's very attentive, he always responds to my needs. My only question honestly is about the Parks Division. And I think we went through this same rodeo last year. I know me and Todd also spoke about this too, and you, about transferring park rangers back under the Parks Division, under your department. Something that I think needs to happen. I need O'Fallon Park to be safe. in
I agree.
and wrestling with the police department, trying to figure out overtime budgets. And then with park rangers not being fully equipped to even do basic law enforcement, that hurts O'Fallon Park and any other park in North City. I know me and Alderwoman Middlebrook have discussed this as well at the park in her ward on Broadway. I think any other alderman feels the same way when they have a nice sized park. We would like park rangers to be equipped to provide services and security. So my question would be, would you support that? I know last budget season, it was a lot of variables involved, and I'm still going to push that envelope.
I understand. To answer your question, I don't think parks categorically breathed a sigh of relief when the park rangers went to the police department. I think obviously when you have less responsibility, and we have a lot, there was some thought then that it was better fit for those folks to be in law enforcement, because technically to some level they are. If we were assured that they were fully staffed, I can tell you right now, there's 30 I shouldn't speak for the police, there's 30 park rangers, there's 24 staffed, and they continue to have attrition. We want at least 30 in our parks. I mean, you're talking O'Fallon, that's one of our 5 regional parks that should have a constant presence. I don't believe it does, and I believe you know that as well. So to put it back under me or us, I would say as long as it's fully staffed, it doesn't matter where it goes. But the decision back then was these folks should be in law enforcement. The Rangers did come to me to ask if I could assist in getting them more enforcement power, and I did. I went to the city councilors, have some connections there, but I think it died on the vine where all they can do is issue parking tickets. I personally think the park rangers should have more authority, whether they're with me and us or them. I don't think it matters. It just matters if they're fully staffed. If I have all the resources to manage them, I'm not saying I'd do it better than the police department, I may not. But wherever they are, they have to be fully staffed, and they need more than 30. I did hear from Sergeant Flowers last week, there's a potential of some cadets coming on, upwards of 10 maybe, where they can be put in Carondelet, O'Fallon, Wilmore, Fairgrounds. No real authority, but identifiable to hopefully quell some of the problems in these parks. So long-winded answer, but I think they're fine to be in the police department with all due respect because they're in law enforcement. It's just a question of them being staffed. If the groundswell of support is let's put them under parks, then we're not going to tell you take a hike. We don't want them. It's just let's get them staffed, if that helps. I'm not trying to be evasive saying we don't want them or we do want them. It's just they're never staffed to the full capability they need to be. And we rely on them heavily at our rec centers must have a park ranger there at all times. Soulard Market is hurting. We can't even get a ranger there, and I'm hearing about it loud and clear in the last 2 months. So, and we're talking about them paying for security down at Soulard, the vendors. They're gonna balk at that, but if you're gonna complain about lack of security, somebody's gonna have to pay for it. And we're not budgeted to pay for that. So we just got an RFP from Securitas, who's the contractor. Kathy and I have been working on that. So we need more rangers.
Absolutely. One more question.
Yes, sir.
In the Division of Forestry, is the commissioner fully funded to actually handle the excessive grass cutting that his division typically undergoes?
I'd say this year, yes. All we need is the people to show up for work and be there and work in conjunction with the contractor. I think he's fully staffed right now to do what I would say would be a C+, B- job. And what I mean by that is, we don't need to manicure these lots and buildings. You've heard it for years. We need to take them out of violation. So the 90-year-old woman who has a manicured landscape next to it doesn't have to see and live next to that. We're not gonna manicure it like a golf course, but he does have the staff to do a good job. It's just not gonna look like Central Park or Forest Park. They're gonna look good and safe. Good enough and safe, where they're cut down, where people can't hide in the weeds, either in the front or back. So yes, would you feel free to contradict me.
Yeah, I think one big difference I'm seeing this year, just already, is that we have people continuing to come in the door and want to work. Where last year, we kind of peaked out at 77, 80 people, and then we continually just fell. So as long as we continue to hire folks and kind of offset that turnover, then we're gonna have a much better season than what we did last year. And we're already seeing those results.
And Alan, Kim, and I will talk to any prospective candidate on the telephone and guide them to the Department of Personnel. We do it, and we'll continue to do it. We're that interested in wanting to do our jobs and not be with our arm tied behind our back. Because trust me, we take this stuff home just like all of you. It's we want to be staffed, and we're like giddy that Kim has upwards of 70 people this year. Last year, she was fighting with about 28. Well,
I peaked at 50.
yeah, but then you lost a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So, right. Just an able body and an able mind will do it for us.
Greg, where were you Friday morning delivering applications?
Yes, Vicki, it was North Newstead,
The Prince Hall.
Prince Hall.
Father support.
Oh, okay.
Father support group, yeah.
We hand delivered applications, waited them out. They said they needed to get the kids together and bring them. Vicky's already emailed me saying she contacted them again. We're just doing these we're not tapping ourselves on the back. We're just doing these proactive efforts because we're not getting these people otherwise. Yes.
And we have, James Clark has been doing a great job with us. We
Yes,
did
he
a
has.
job fair with him just last Thursday, and he continues to email me different locations throughout the city that we send a crew, or we just send a couple people up there, hand out applications. But we're getting a lot of a good word out of them and get a lot of applicants from his organization, so.
And my biggest pet peeve in forestry when aldermen call, if an alderman or an alderwoman calls and says, hey, it's high, a lot of times I'll say, we know that. But what my biggest pet peeve is, when you drive down the street, see the cuts, and then you see something that looks horrible, and our guys and ladies went by it, or went by it again and again, because they say, wow, that's gonna take us a day or two. Trust me, Todd calls me on those, because there's no excuse for those. So if you see some eyesores where it looks like a perfect set of teeth and one missing tooth, there's no excuse for forestry to be missing something. But there are some really high stuff and thick stuff, especially in the back of these yards that are vacant for years. So miscuts bother me.
One more question.
Yes.
Because I know a lot of times your division cuts LRA property.
Correct.
All of
Do
them.
you ever get reimbursed by LRA when you cut that property?
They give us a stipend in the beginning of
Is that stipend, is it sufficient enough?
If it takes 1.2 million to pay for our seasonal staff, Alderman, let's say we get 300,000 from LRA every year. We don't get 1.5 that we could like to have. We get 1.2 and 300,000 of that is LRA. So we never get more from them. They just supplement our seasonal budget.
But it's not sufficient enough for the work that your division does, though.
Correct. We're not.
Does that cut into the contractual budget, or?
No. Well, this is the first, we've had, last 2 years, we've had 100,000 ballpark to do contractual. This year, we pretty much tripled it. We're at 350. And we've never had that. So to answer your question, we're in a lot better shape this year with contractual services. Those funds are gonna be huge. And if we don't spend them, we'll have some explaining to do next year, because we wanna have that contractor out there.
Awesome.
Alderman Mound?
Yes, I have
Thanks,
no further questions.
appreciate the questions.
Again, I appreciate Kim and Alan. They are very attentive, and of course, our Commissioner of Recreation, Evelyn.
Thank you.
All right, Alderwoman Boyd?
My question that I have is the process on how you all are cutting, because what I keep hearing is you might, perfect example, I showed it to Alan, we had a lot and they cut the top, and then he said they'll come back next week and they'll cut the bottom. Well, now it's raining, so the top is gonna be back up, and so it helped me understand the process, because that's the complaint I get. It's not that they don't cut, it's that perfect example. They'll say, well, they had the guys out with the weed eaters, and then we asked them, well, why didn't you cut? Well, somebody else gonna come behind us and they gonna cut. So, and maybe I'm looking for something that shouldn't be looking for, but normally when people cut a lot or a house, they will cut an edge and then leave. So that's why I'm just trying to get the understanding, what's the process?
You're not off base, so,
Okay.
but Alan can weigh in here. I was in forestry for years. We have ag tractor operators that cut just vacant lots. They do not have a weed eater on the side of their hip where they hop out and then do the tree lawn or around a pole. It's very inefficient, in my opinion, to do that. They just keep going right down. There should be a crew not far behind, maybe it could be a day though, from our vacant building operations that's as close to that cut as possible to finish the job.
Okay.
If you cut a vacant lot and there's maybe a hillside that the tractor operator is just completely unsafe, somebody should be following up from our vacant building crews to do that. If it goes 2 weeks, that's inexcusable. It just doesn't even make sense to do that. So Alan, that's a detailed operational question, but it's a fair question. So how far behind are you? Because we start hitting all the wards, but the vacant lot crews obviously are gonna go way faster than the vacant buildings.
Right.
We do 6 of them a year, buildings 2.
Okay.
So you feel free to weigh in.
To answer your question, like I kind of mentioned yesterday, our vacant building crews are kind of trimmers. They use the weed eaters. They may have a walk behind or may have a ride along that, just smaller units than the bigger brush hogs that cut the vacant lots. So the vacant lot crews, like we said, if they're gonna do 7 rotations, they're gonna keep moving. And they're gonna lap our vacant building crews. And our vacant building crews are the ones that are coming in and following up on all the properties in the ward. So we don't have a crew that just kind of follows our tractors this year. We have we cut the whole ward with our vacant building crews. I don't think that makes any sense there.
I think your point, I think if you're experiencing those and you can show me and Alan those, we need to tighten that up some, because in the past, we kind of stayed pretty tight with that.
I understand.
Yeah, and my concern too, because you all have an obstacle against you, and I know you don't want to talk about Greg, but it rains, and so
Right.
when the rain comes and they cut it, as soon as the sun hits it, the grass shoots up.
Right.
And so then they come back for another week or so to do the other part. Well, that other part has grown up, and so that's just my concern.
Sure.
Thank you all for because I was one of the wards that was fortunate to have the landscapers to come in to start working to cut the areas.
Sure.
And we work with Better Family Life, and so that's how we came up with the area that they would start targeting. But I guess my question is too, the trees. Y'all know how I am about the trees. Y'all know how I am about the trees.
You should be.
First of all, I don't want them trees planted in my ward because half of them are dead. They're half dead. I'm just telling you, they look like Charlie Brown trees. I don't want to, yes. And so I'm just like, okay, let's work with what we got, the trees we have, and let's keep them where they need to be in the tree line. So that's my issue with trees. Kim and them know how I feel about the trees. I'm just not feeling these trees. I'm just sorry. They're just not. And the reason why, because nobody's taking care of them. So you put the tree there, and nobody's taking care of them.
Well, I don't.
Up on Bircher, up on West Florissant, they just look like Charlie Brown trees.
Sure. Well, we're all about
I don't want Charlie Brown in my ward.
we're all
Yeah, I don't want them little trees.
we're all about zero net loss, meaning if we take one out, we'd like to replant one, but we can certainly discuss limiting the.
trees.
Yeah, and I don't know, Chairman, I don't know if I'm out of line by making the comment, but years ago, Skip Kincaid was the commissioner, and I
Right.
asked him to contact some folks, I don't know why I didn't myself, to be honest with you, about whether we could use ward capital funds, and this, I don't want to get in a problem here. If we could use ward capital funds to fund trimming and removal. He was told by somebody, and I don't know who, to be honest with you, you cannot do that because it's not a capital item with like a shelf life of 10 years. It's a service. Now, I don't know who checked recently. Maybe it was me on that email. Now I'm hearing that we maybe can in the future, but it's a whole different discussion.
Right. And so do you all have certain times that you cut trees? Is it certain times of the year? Because it used to be, and I want to say you used to tell
365
me,
days a year, so
in
to
the
speak.
fall, they used to trim them certain times, but is it certain time the trees are trimmed or cut?
We don't have the luxury of, you should be trimming and removing trees when they're dormant.
Okay.
Which is October through March.
Okay.
We don't have the
Okay.
luxury of
Of
enough
doing
staff
that.
to be just doing that. We do them all year long.
Okay. And the reason why I'm asking, because the 27th Ward has been blessed with trees. And we have humongous trees that are killing people's property. And so that's why I'm asking.
Sure.
Because we have a lady, Alan and them know the lady, that's talking about this tree. And so I'm just trying to figure out, is it a certain time that we're gonna cut a tree, or is how we do that? How does the process work?
We base them on a hazard rating. It's a subjective rating by our arborists, and we just put them in line to get the next one down the line. So if
That'd
you
be
have
funny,
some
it's
hot,
called triage.
right. If you have some hot ones, but the thing I brought up is something.
That's why he's the chairman.
The funding I brought up is for another day in the future, but anyway, yeah, we don't have the luxury of just saying, hey, we'll start trimming and removing in October. We don't have that luxury.
Okay, I'm trying to get our residents, we have a sanitation committee, so I'm trying to get them to be creative with lots. To see how we could beautify lots.
Mow to own.
You've been talking to Mary Lou, mow the lawn. I have I have one resident in particular that they turned her down, and it's right next to her house.
Really?
Yeah.
I have.
They just turned
sorry
her
to hear
down,
that.
and they told her, and I called and said, well, why wouldn't you sell her that lot? Well, it's 3 other lots and somebody might buy it. No, get a lady the lot. She wanna buy it, let her buy
That's
it.
what I'd do.
So, but we're trying to be creative, like Northwest High School, when Laura Gann and them did all the demolition. Well, now they put paintings around the lot. It stopped people from dumping.
And Forestry cleared that whole site.
Yes, they did a
Lillian.
fantastic job. And so now nobody's dumping over there.
Good.
And so now we're trying to be creative with the other lots in the wards to try to do things to discourage people from dumping on.
Sure.
So I want to thank Mary Lou and her team because they're trying to work with me to try to see how we can work with these lots to make people understand we want them to be beautiful and not dumping ground.
Great.
So thank you all for what you do. I know Alan think I am Tilla the Hind, but it's okay.
He actually speaks very highly of you.
Because I am constantly sending him
He
these
does.
pictures and like, oh my God. But we're trying to work with Alan and his team to kind of get these lots where they need to be.
We'll chill.
Yeah.
We'll chill on the trees. And
All right.
Okay, please, thank you. And thank Kim for her patience with me.
All right,
Yeah.
any further?
That's all I
All right,
have.
Thank you, Alderman.
Next on the list is Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
By me being low on the totem pole, my questions are always already asked. So I don't have any questions, but I compliment, as my sister did, I compliment you all for the parks in my ward.
Thank you.
And I'll speak about the rec center because, especially since I got gifts today, you guys are the only one that brought me gifts. But
Oh,
anyway, me, Bill and I, Mr. Dixon and I talked about having a fair at Wold, introducing the programs that you spoke about that are going to be implemented. And it was I think it would be a great idea maybe for the other rec centers to do that as well, where we're just going to let them come sit at tables and then invite the community out
Sure.
to see about that, so that'll be a good thing. And then also, we definitely can try to push those jobs, because we do know a lot of people that are looking for work, and with you lowering the age and everything else, I think that's a good thing to try to get more people engaged and more people
Sure.
to apply, so thank you.
You bet. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Director, 2 things. One of our colleagues on the sideline was wondering about how we are on the tree trimming schedule. I'll direct us to Alan. Are we ahead or far behind this time of year as far as getting around to it?
to trimming.
Or where are we at, are we
Yeah,
ahead or
we're-
behind?
So last year, we were down 10 tree trimmers, and so that put us way back.
Sure.
And every storm that we have, it's just now is a matter of time, it's just trying to catch up. And then kind of Greg mentioned earlier, maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel where we can maybe use some capital funds and maybe contract out some of this tree trimming to get us back up to play.
So we're ahead of last year is what I'm hearing.
Let's be candid here. We suffer with tree trimming and that service delivery.
Sure.
We know, Vicky and Alan know exactly what trees are on the list. We know our hazards, so to
Okay.
speak, where they've been coded as 30-day hazards. Sometimes that's abused a little bit. They're not that
Yes,
bad, and people hear 30 days,
go
but
look at 'em.
we need help.
Okay.
27 tree trimmers, Chairman, and we typically have 6 or 7 vacancies. You can't run a city with 20 tree trimmers.
Okay. And the only other thing, when you're doing your fleet audit,
Yes.
and I'm guessing it's not as dire as what we went through with the refuse division last year, where the fleet was not staggered as they purchased things. Your vehicles,
Right.
while the trash trucks broke down at one time last year.
I'm a firm believer in stagger purchases.
Okay, right.
You can't buy everything at once. They all get old at once.
Sure.
But, look, yeah, we complete more city services than any city
Sure.
agency, except for refuse. We flip-flop. And I'm just dismayed that we've been at the low end of the poll for years. And you can't expect the high demand
Sure.
to be handled with no
All right,
resources.
see what we can do to help you, sir. All right.
I always
No
beat
further-
that
all
drum.
right, No further questions, if anyone?
I have a couple of
Kara?
follow-up questions. Just with the tree trimmers, what is the issue with being able to keep fully staffed? Is it a salary issue? I know it's a very dangerous job to have to climb up those trees and
Both.
trim them.
It's one of the most dangerous jobs in the United States. And some folks may not want to live in the city of St. Louis. I always asked for a waiver of residency on that position, because it's so difficult to recruit from. If you put a waiver on that position, I don't know if flooded's a fair statement. I think we would have tree trimmers from all over saying, I'd like a pension with the city. I'll work for the city,
I
but.
need to speak to the chairman of the Parks.
Right,
Have
but
introduce a bill.
dangerous job, but we just
We are having.
traditionally have never been able to be fully staffed with it.
That's a
Carol's
good,
bill is
I'm glad
coming
to-
up.
And we did a benchmark study with the personnel department. We're competitive, but we're still down a little bit. I think we have those results if you ever wanted to see them.
Okay.
I'd like to see those. And then just really quickly to piggyback
Alan.
off of my colleague from the 21st Ward's questions about the cost of mowing LRA. We should really have that fully itemized out. LRA is under SLDC, which has a budget entirely outside of city government and has the luxury of being able to fund things on their own that we couldn't even imagine funding. And if they have enough money to be funding all kinds of things out of SLDC, they should at least be able to mow their own lawns over there. And if we are mowing it for them through our forestry department, we should be fully reimbursed for the full extent of that cost.
Well, we bill them every year, early July. I did for years, Vicki and Alan do, and it's a tune of about $2 million a year that comes out of our billing
They
system.
bill them every year.
So-
Do they pay it?
No.
Should they give us
Well,
about
we would,
200,000?
I would like to see that, and this is unbelievable to me, that we are allowing an agency that is funded off of fees for redevelopments that we pay for out of tax abatement and other gifts from city government, and they cannot find the funding to fully pay for the work that the city does mowing the lots that they have full jurisdiction over. That is ludicrous, and we ought to fix that this year.
Well, they give us about $20,000 a year in
That's
equipment. I started asking for that.
Shameful. We should be replacing our fleet with money that with manpower that we are expending mowing their lawn. I'm really grateful to the alderman for the 21st for bringing that issue up, and I will.
We fully support
Okay.
those comments.
Great.
All right, we'll have to send
Right.
Vito and collections over to SLDC and talk about this.
Yes.
Right.
That's right.
We need a compliance officer.
Otis and I are good colleagues, but I'll take his money.
All right, if we have no further questions of the director, we're going to break for lunch till 1:15 with the street
I
department.
appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you very much, Craig.
Thank you.
Yes.